Hello, everybody. My name is Badrinaran and I am from Bangalore in India. And I've been playing chess on chess.com for the last 8 years. Recently, I started sharing my games on YouTube, basically documenting my journey and providing some commentary like why I made a particular move, why the opponent move could have made the particular move, and so on. And in today's game, I'm going to show like few Blitz games where really my opponents made some truly baffling moves. They were very bad blunders, and the funny thing is, the blunders just kept happening again and again, and all the games were from Predators, like continuous. Um, I think around like 6 games. I think, yeah, 6 game winning streak looks good, but it doesn't feel that great when you look back and see that it's only because of the opponent. And even this sixth game, even this was a major blunder. I think you can see it even in the small screen there. Um, and I don't know. I don't know what's happening, and it's not like this is because of the blitz format because they still had enough time when they made those blunders. Uh, Having said all that, I don't think I always found the best possible follow up every time in those games, but I managed to secure the wins, and I just wanted to showcase them to you today. Yeah, let's just jump into the games. This was my most recent game. I'm going backwards based on most recent, and it's against a player named Kalu Tarana. Immediately, my first thing was whether he's a Sri Lankan, but he looks like he's an Indian. Uh, Sri Lankan because Kaluvitarana is a famous wicket keeper from Sri Lanka, and I don't think his records were that great. But even if it were great, it wouldn't have mattered because he always played in the shadow of another player called Jayasuriya. His the He was a very feared batsman, especially against India, and I have a lot of memories with him. Anyway, that's just a small tangent to cricket. And Let's get back to the main story. As usual, I went with T4. Like I said, I'm just going with the Catalan these days. And in this particular case, when they broke with C5, I just go for the D pawn. The idea is to isolate his D pawn like this. And my notion is that whenever you find an isolated pawn like this, you have to make sure that you win it for free. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think I've been quite successful in that area. Even if I do manage to isolate the pawn, I will not be able to capture it easily. Let me know if there's some well-known theory in this particular regard. For now, we'll continue with the game. The next priority is, of course, to fianchetto the bishop and castle. This is basically the essence of Catalan. Fianchetto this bishop, castle, and this bishop stares down at the long diagonal all the way into the rook. And I found this to be very aggressive and very successful for my playstyle, and that's why I persisted with it. I bring the queen out here, and the idea is that this is one of the reasons why I have not been able to get a good success in this particular in this particular variation. When I first watched the video on Catalan, the person who was making the video said that after you isolate this pawn, when you target this bishop goes back here. That's what was mentioned in the video. Looking back now, I don't think there's any sense of this. I don't know why they would go there. Maybe it's because this bishop is coming out here, but I don't think it's still that strong. Looks quite passive to me, especially when you consider the actual best move is put the bishop in a far more stronger square. Like this bishop is essentially locking this rook down to protect this pawn for the foreseeable future. And that's why most of my opponents do go there. Even in OTB, I have seen that they have gone here itself. And in my next move, I brought my knight out, basically trying to finish my development. And this bishop comes here. The idea couldn't be simpler, right? Bishop takes, let's see, I think I might have, no, okay. Uh, Bishop takes knight. And if the queen takes back, then this pawn is dead, right? And if the pawn takes back, mm, then the castle structure is gone. That was the whole idea behind this. I know how my opponent missed it, and not only did they miss it, they put it in a very bad situation. This is in fact worse. And after I took with the knight, I was fully expecting him to take back with the pawn. fully expecting him to, let's see, take back the pawn. And then this rook comes in, put full pressure on this pawn, and then this queen and all that. I was thinking. And then he takes with the queen. Not only does this lose this pawn, it also means that that bishop is going off next. It's a trade, of course. It's not like I'm getting a full bishop, but it's still a big advantage for me. Queen d8, knight takes, queen takes, rook jumps in here. Not sure, like, oh, okay, this is basically a threatening checkmate attack, but no one is going to fall for the checkmate, right? Right, right. What? And how long did I? Let's see. Oh man, where is that? Okay, and in the next 4 seconds, I mean, I really didn't think like how they could miss this, and the game just got over very quickly. The next one is against 1722. In this case, I was black. Let's see. I think this went with to the Scotch game, I guess. Yep, a Scotch game. And yeah, I confirm that this is generally the Dubois-Retty variation. Um, Here he's supposed to push this pawn down, okay, kick away this knight, but the knight doesn't. But I am supposed to bring this here, counterattack the bishop and all that. Instead, the opponent did this, kind of like a delayed. What's that one? Delayed Danish gambit, I guess. I generally don't go full deep into the Danish. And in this case, yeah, I have a free pawn, right? I just chopped that one. And as soon as I castle break with d5, and I'm straight away at a good 1.2 advantage. This is just a pure loss of a pawn. There is no compensation for white here. After this, bishop goes back. This bishop comes out. The other bishop comes out, and here he's actually telling that you're just being allowed to take taken without f5. Let's look at the best move. Um, yeah, I mean, so I suppose you could do that, but I just felt that if I even if I do this, I would only be helping his development there. It's so for that reason, I didn't take the. I don't think I would have taken that pawn even if I had known that. I just my priority was to castle and make my king safe. And yeah, I anyway have a +1, so I didn't want to get greedy there. So I just continued with this. Now the knight comes out, and I just cleared it off. I didn't want to make things too complicated. And here, after this, um, he takes here, which is an inaccuracy. This is just not good. Um, this is just an unnecessary trade for white. But the bigger surprise was the next move, and the opponent just straight up resigned. He didn't even allow me to play. Uh, I don't know, like what was the idea here? Maybe put the bishop behind later and eyeing this h7 pawn, but it's not going to work, right? Pawn just strikes and then bishop dies, and then the game is over there itself. Yep, that's about the second game. Let's look at the third game. In this one, I am playing white again. I think this was the game in which there were blunders from my side as well. Okay, this seems to be a very long game. Let's see what happened. Let's just skip ahead. Okay, this is the old Benoni defense. Um, like I said, I play a kind of delayed Benoni. Like I put this knight here and then bring this pawn in. Why is it a default yellow? I put this knight here and then bring out this pawn whenever my opponent goes d4 as white. Benoni is straight up giving it. What is that? Benoni is straight up trading this pawn, and I go with c3 to ensure that I don't lose a center pawn for the flank pawn. And that's exactly what happened. I just chopped it off there itself. Queen jumps out, knight jumps out. He takes back the pawn. Like I didn't really expect him to continue in a stage where the with the pawn advantage there. That pawn is going to go off very soon. Castle. castles. This was the blunder, but I don't think yeah, I didn't, and yeah, so this was this is a beautiful blunder actually. Let's show the discovery. Beautiful. So I didn't even think through these things. And the only way to think through these things is always to look for checks, captures, and attacks. In this case, I don't have a check. I don't have a good capture because this is the only capture available, but that is protected by this knight. But I did have an attack. The attack was to go here and threaten this queen. But it also opens a discovery attack on this bishop. And because of that, the only way to save both of them is to get the queen to a5, take off the bishop, queen takes bishop, and then knight c7 gives me a full rook. Um, that's a little bit misleading because once I chop this rook off, there is no way that that knight is coming back alive. That is just not going to happen. But it's still a knight for a rook, which is a beautiful trick. And I definitely missed this one. I just jumped my queen there, and after this I had the three diagonal pieces staring on monster diagonals, and in between there's an isolated pawn as well, and I was really feeling good. 1.5 advantage, and I knew that I was in the driver's seat. NBD7, rook comes into, and then this. Why? What was even the idea here? Um, Queen needs to escape, obviously, and this was the move that I was expecting. This is yet another one which I struggle a lot. Initially, it looks like even if this knight is not there, taking this queen and getting this pawn here, it looks like very good for me because of the double pawns. But people who know the theory, they feel that this is actually not very good for white, or even if it's black the other way around, because even the double pawns apparently is not a very huge disadvantage in this area. And that was the move which I was expecting from him. And then he straights up puts it here, and boom, dead. And that's a huge loss of material there. And I think I can just skip ahead. I don't think anything special happened after this. Let's see if this eval goes below 4 at any point. Oh my god. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Like I have said in my previous videos also, I usually so once I get a material advantage, I usually prefer the simpler route of just exchanging everything else. And that's what happened here as well. Once I got this, I was just trying to make sure I trade off as many pieces as possible. Here, yep. Yeah, this was a very good trade here. I mean, for him, it is important to keep his pieces alive because he's down material, right? But unfortunately, when I do this, I'm actually forcing a trade here. He can't allow this knight to die because this pawn can't even protect this. So he has to do some things. And for that reason, there was no other option for him to but to take my queen. And queens are traded, knights are traded, and king is in a very precarious state. Sorry, I don't think, yeah, king is in a very precarious state here. And like better players within me would have tried to, I guess, bring this rook out. Let's see, bring this rook out here. But I just believe in keeping things simple. So yeah, I just kept trading off the pieces, and eventually I, let's see, yep, eventually I just ignored the threat on this rook because I know that I was going to get that knight as well. Um, with 34 seconds left on the clock, he finally resigned. He knew that there was no way that he could survive 34 seconds, especially against my queen, and he just resigned there. Let's go to the next one. Okay, looks like I have, and here I am playing as black. Let's the old Jacobiano game, and here let's keep pushing forward. I don't want to. And here, yeah, here I was actually I wanted to maintain the spin. Apparently, the opponent Indian thinks that I should have just traded off the bishop there itself. I don't see the point. Maybe the point is that a lot of his pawns are in the white light squares. Maybe that's the reason why the Indian thinks that it would have been better to trade away my light square bishop. But I don't think I would have done that. I really wanted to keep that pin alive. Let's see. And next, this is a mistake apparently. And but he brought this queen out here. They just straight up went to f4. Let's see. Okay. So the issue is not even the pawn capture. Okay. The punished a mistake. Let's see the missed opportunity. Hmm. hmm. Yeah, don't really see the big mistake there. I knew in my mind I was also thinking that they are just going to capture the pawn and nothing else. Uh, I brought my rook out to chase the queen. Queen gives a check. I have no option but to move the king. There was no way that I was going to trade the queens at this juncture. And if I try to block with the knight, it's just going to that knight is just going to be blocked for all eternity. That was the reason why I just straight up moved the king, even losing the castling rights along the way. And in the next move, this was a blunder. I okay. I guess the idea was to protect this pawn, but this gave me some ideas. Uh, Check, and straight away I got my pawn back. But what is worse is, what is even more better for me is the fact that I was expecting this move, be pawn to come in and put the pressure, or this one, both cases. And I was really hoping that that's the move that they are going to play, because the issue here is that this queen is trapped. The queen has nowhere to go. Three, out, 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 and out. This is tough to see because the only reason these two escape squares got covered is because of the knight. And that's a little bit tough to see. And boom, d4, blunder. The idea you can see is to scare this bishop and make it fly around. Like after I go here, maybe this king comes out, and it's going to be a lot of tempos for the opponent. What they missed was that the queen was fully trapped, and I won the queen. Not only did I win the queen, I also got out of this threat from this pawn. And he did this, hitting this knight and also this knight. This was where I made the blunder. I was thinking that, what was I thinking? I think I was thinking like, yeah, I mean, if this bishop takes, I'm going to take it back. It's an equal trade. But what I missed was that this square is controlled twice by the opponent. Or not that one. That one. And not only that, this knight is no longer pinned, which I think also is another miss from my side. I just made this move in 3 seconds, and only then did I realize that I was. And it looks as though it's 2.1 now for white, even though it's actually going to be equal. This allows the, and this is the one the opponent missed, and I took it back, and I started. What is that? Yeah, I just got a. I just won a pawn back. You will see that even though I have a queen, the material is equal here, and I won the first pawn over here. And apparently, this is not a good idea because now the knight can go 4 plus queen and bishop, and not only is it a it's a beautiful 4, because let's once the knight goes here, my only option is to move the queen here, and both queen and bishop get stuck there. Sorry about that. I got a phone call. I just cut that call. Anyway, let's continue. And the opponent missed that one as well and brought rook to a1, and straight away the advantage was given back to me. but it's just a puny 1.2 advantage because of my blunder. Let's continue with the review. Um, I went there hitting that pawn. He moves the pawn to to make it sure it's defended. Rook comes there. My rook finally jumps into the action and jumps into an open file. I jump with there, and once again he lost another pawn. This is the kind of things that you need to see it as you go higher and higher, and you need not only do you need to see it, and you need to see it fast. Uh, this pawn seems to be protected by this rook, but the issue is when this rook moves, I have my queen creating a discover attack on this rook. And just like that, I was 2 pawns up, and I knew that from then on, I knew I had to be. I knew I was going to win the game, unless of course I made another blunder, and I wasn't planning to. Check, bring the knight back, pawn moves, and I eliminated his last and final threat. His last and final threat is on this pawn, which is protected twice. Right now, it is protected by this bishop as well, but this is where it gets tricky. Like even though this is giving protection, it is also making this bishop get there, and that is not good. You need to get it unstuck as soon as possible, and that's what I was planning to do with this. He brings the queen up, and little by little, I just kept chipping away. And yeah, once again, I went into the old idea of simplification. Bishop stares into the rook, and also stares into bishop stares into the rook, and it also stares into a bishop trade. And initially, I was only thinking about the trade, but after I made the move, I realized that it was not even an equal trade because I'm going to get an extra pawn. So this was now that is going to make my advantage +3, but his next move actually made it +6, I guess, because now when bishop takes bishop, pawn takes bishop, queen takes pawn, it is forking this knight and this rook. People talk about knight forks all the time, but believe me, queen forks. Queen is an even big forker, and he lost the knight, and I think okay, he just made it into a timeout situation kind of. Anyway, the last game. Let's see what was the blunder here. I'm just going to skip ahead with the opening. Yet another Catalan. Catalan against the King's Indian defense. Um, uh, oh, okay. So 30 moves, and neither of us has done anything. We have just ensured to trade off all our pieces. But I knew that my bishop was slightly stronger than his. The only thing on his side is that all his pawns are on the light squares, which restricts my movement. But the issue is that it also restricts the movement of his own bishop. And I was sure that my bishop will get into an active square earlier than him. Um, Maybe this was not a blunder after all. Let's find out. Okay, and I was okay. This was a normal game, I guess. Okay, let's continue with this. And at this point, I knew I had made a mistake somewhere. I knew that this pawn coming down was going to be difficult for me. He didn't do that, and now my king is stuck. My king is stuck, whereas his king is free to move. And at some point, he's going to sacrifice this pawn because then that would free up this square, which will eventually mean that the king can gobble up all these 3 pawns. That's the whole idea here. And I think he missed that. On passant, yes. And once he did this, okay, still 4.3. Okay, he should have finished off that pawn, I guess. I am not sure exactly what happened here. Okay, okay, we entered the blunder territory again anyway. So, and I kept pushing this pawn. One thing I kept making sure was that the king stays in front of the pawn. Um, this is a good way to ensure that the pawn won't get eaten up easily. But here is where the final blunder happened. Uh, the engine says it's just a miss, but in my opinion, this was just a blunder. Uh, if this pawn had moved forward, the king would have been outside the box. The extra move helped me to get inside the box, and from then on, there was no stopping. And the idea was that in his hurry to push this pawn to the end, he wasted one move. This pawn wasn't going to queen. That was just not going to happen. The only way for him to draw the game was to start pushing his king upstairs, forcing me to go for this pawn, and then even picking up this pawn and eventually stopping this pawn as well. Instead, he straight up tried to move this pawn, and that gave me enough time to get in and kill this pawn. And now, even if he tries to kill this pawn, there's no way for him to get into this file, which means that this pawn is going to queen and he's going to die. And that basically was the start uh, of my streak. Okay, let's come in. Uh, it's a 6 game winning streak, but like I said, all 6 games were due to some baffling moves by the opponent. Let me know your thoughts on this and like what you liked and more importantly, what you disliked about the videos. Thanks for watching.